Our text today is found in Matthew's Gospel, the 16th chapter, beginning in verse 24. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life?" The word of God for the people of God. Amen. We are beginning today our 4-week stewardship campaign or emphasis based on our focus book, Adam Hamilton's Enough, Discovering Joy Through Simplicity and Generosity. Over the years, I've had people from time to time say to me, "You know, we don't go to church a lot, but we finally decided to visit a church, and what do you know, the first Sunday we were there, the preacher was talking about money. Is that all you people have to talk about?" Well, if you have participated in this church for very long, you know that we do not harp on money here. It's not something we talk about Sunday after Sunday. But on the other hand, it's not something that we're going to avoid either. Allie and I have talked, and we are in agreement that this is not something we're afraid to talk about. And there is a clear reason. I like to say that money talks. Our money represents our hard work, doesn't it? It represents our dreams. It represents the very investment of our life. How we handle money is probably the deepest revelation of who God really is for us. And it is a clear window into what we actually worship in our lives and with our lives. Our sermons over the next 4 weeks will not be all about money. They will be what it means to truly give ourselves to the Lord and what it means for us to truly live out the gospel with our prayers and our presence and our gifts and our service and our witness. I chose my text today very deliberately. Jesus says, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life?" Now, is that a message that we really want to hear? Is Jesus asking a question that you and I might just as soon avoid? Instead of worshiping with us here today, you could have stayed home and turned on your television and heard some pastor with a really neat haircut and a big crowd of listeners tell you that if you become a Christian, your life will be much better than it is right now. In fact, if you start believing that good things will come your way, then they will come your way. If you have the right attitude, you will have a blessed life, and it will include some very, very special material rewards. With positive thinking, you can lift yourself up, in a way, save yourself. It's commonly called the prosperity gospel. And you know, when I hear all of this, I am never quite sure why we need Jesus at all. Because it's all about me and my attitude. It's all about my success as the culture defines success. You know by now that I like Charles Schulz's Peanuts cartoons. Robert Short did a PhD at University of Chicago, and out of that came a couple of books, The Gospel According to Peanuts and Parables of Peanuts. Charles Schulz was a great theologian, and I often turn back to his cartoons. I have one where Charlie Brown is reading a newspaper article to Lucy. It says here that young people of today don't believe in causes. Lucy responds, "That's not true at all. I believe in a cause. I believe in me. I'm my own cause. If I'm not a cause, then what is? I believe in the cause of good old me. That's the cause I believe in." Lucy walks away still raving. "I'm the best cause I know, and I believe that cause I am." Charlie Brown turns and mutters, "Good grief." Lucy might be the voice of 21st century America. We tend to put a lot of emphasis on ourselves, on achieving success and satisfying our desire for material possessions. And don't misunderstand me here. There is nothing wrong with being successful. But we tend to measure our success and sometimes even our happiness by the stuff we possess. And it can easily become the meaning of our lives. And we can set out to literally buy our own happiness. In Adam Hamilton's little book, Enough, that I'm encouraging you to read, he points out that the average credit card debt in America has risen from $3,000 in 1990 to nearly $17,000 today. In 1973, the average home in America was 1,600 square feet compared to 2,700 square feet in 2016. And listen to this. Today we have approximately 2.3 billion square feet of self-storage space in America. 2.3 billion square feet. As I read the Gospels, I see clearly that Jesus challenges this definition of success. For sure, Jesus wants you and me to have a good life. But there is a different path to success and to happiness for him. When Jesus says that we must deny ourselves and take up our cross and follow him, it sounds a lot like defeat. But what if it's not so much a recipe for defeat as it is a path to transformation, of dying to the old self that a new self might be born? Marcus Borg said that when Jesus spoke of death, of taking up the cross, of losing our life to find our life, he had in mind two particular deaths. First, the dying of the self as the center of its own concern. And secondly, the dying to the world as the sense or center of security and identity. The world to which we must die is the world of conventional wisdom that tells you and me that happiness is found in money and security. And the self to which one must die is the preoccupied self, the self that defines itself by its own comfort and its own security. Such a dying allows us to recenter our lives on God and on the things that matter. So Jesus asked the question, what will it profit you if you gain the whole world, money and possessions and security, and in the process forfeit your whole life? Fred Craddock is a preacher that I have absolutely loved over the years, and I'll go ahead and say it. I'll quote him way too much from this pulpit, but I read a story just the other day. Craddock, it happened when Fred Craddock was 20 years old. He was reading for the first time a copy of Albert Schweitzer's The Quest for the Historical Jesus, and he said he was so impressed with that brilliant book, a look at the quest of scholars over the centuries to identify Jesus historically. He was so impressed by it that he took notes and he just had questions. And then, in fact, Albert Schweitzer, by the way, I mentioned him in my first sermon I preached here, a brilliant, world-renowned organist, theologian, philosopher, medical doctor. He gave up an extraordinary career, a cultured life in Europe, to go to equatorial Africa and work as a medical doctor with the very poorest of the poor. Well, at age 20, learning that Albert Schweitzer was to be in Cleveland, Ohio, to play an organ concert for a big new organ at a church there, Craddock said he bought a Greyhound bus ticket. He lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, 20 years old. He bought a Greyhound bus ticket and headed to Cleveland. And he took notes all the way on his questions, because the article had said that Albert Schweitzer would stay after the concert. There would be refreshment and a time of conversation. He said that he heard the concert, and then he rushed into Fellowship Hall in that Cleveland church to get a good seat. And after a while, Schweitzer came in. Shaggy hair, big white mustache, stooped, 75 years of age. He had played a marvelous concert. He came in with a cup of tea and he stood in front of the group. And Craddock says, there I was, right in front of him with my questions. Schweitzer thanked everyone, said, you've been very warm and hospitable to me. I wish I could stay longer, but I must go back to Africa now because my people are poor and diseased and hungry and dying. I have to go back now. And then he added, we have a medical station at Lambarene. If there would happen to be anyone here in this room who has the love of Jesus, who would be prompted by that love to go with me and help me, I would really appreciate it. Craddock says he looked down at his questions and thought, these are absolutely stupid. He said he learned again what it means to be a Christian. And he said, I had hopes that I could be one someday myself. I knew a lady in New Orleans years ago who spent a lot of her time trying to make a difference in the way the system treats juvenile offenders. It was adversarial at times, the work she did. She wrote letters, she made phone calls. She went to see folks who could impact the way things were done in the city. She worried people in high places to distraction. And I asked her one day if she enjoyed doing all that, and she said, not really. I said, do you get paid? And she said, oh, no. And I said, were your children ever in trouble with the law? No, my kids have never been in trouble. So I said, it's not fun and you don't get paid for it, and some people think you are causing a lot of trouble. Why do you do it? To which she responded, because I have to. Because I have to. Cross bearers do not pick up their crosses as a means of self-promotion, or for that matter, for self-fulfillment. They pick up their crosses like Jesus because of the needs of other people. They stand with the weak. They open doors for the unacceptable. They love those who are unlovely. This applies to our witness. This applies to our money. Barbara Brown Taylor is another preacher that I like too much, and I love the way she says things. And she said, following Jesus means receiving our lives as gifts instead of guarding them as our own possessions. It means sharing the life we have instead of bottling it for our own consumption. Sharing the life we have instead of bottling it for our own consumption. It means giving up the notion that we can build a dam to contain the bright streams of our lives and letting our lives go instead, letting them swell their banks and spill their wealth, running and growing fuller. End of quote. There is freedom. There is freedom for you and me in knowing when enough is enough. Freedom to go and freedom to do and freedom to give, simply because we are free. You know, there's some things in the Bible that I think I would have just as soon Jesus not said. In Matthew's gospel, he says, then Jesus told his disciples, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake, they'll find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life? Amen.